I'm Andrea Clarke. I specialise in women's health, so fertility, all things menstrual cycle, and I add in a little bit of energy field healing into that mix. I use fertility massage, reproductive reflexology, and it seems to work really nice. It's a really powerful blend of treatments for women, I think. When you're menstruating, so from day 1 to day 3, 4, 5, however long your cycle is, you're not going to get any cervical mucus. So you will have your bleed, then there will probably be a few days when there is no mucus at all. And then after that point, it will start to increase, so it will be creamy and sticky. So it will go through different phases up until that point of ovulation. So you're really looking to see whether there's any fluid at all. We call it cervical mucus rather than discharge, but actually it performs a really incredible job in our bodies. So we're looking for that fairly sort of acidic mucus at the beginning of the cycle, so after you've finished bleeding, and it will be creamy at that point. Then as you move towards ovulation, what you'll find is it starts to become thinner and wetter and more watery. So what we're looking for that peak day of ovulation is we're looking for that watery egg white consistency. So it tends to be clear. Sometimes there'll be little streaks of cream through it, but it's relatively clear and it's relatively sticky. So if you put some between your fingers, you would be able to stretch it out. And what they think is with those that it's very nourishing for the sperm, but it also acts as channels for the sperm to swim up through. So it's actually feeding them and assisting them on their journey towards the egg. So if you have that type of fluid for 2 or 3 days, the last day will be your most fertile. That's probably just before you ovulate. That will be your most fertile, and that's your peak day. And then you'll find after that point that the fluid will start to thicken up, or it might disappear altogether. I think it's a bit of an individual thing. There's two kind of schools of thought here, isn't there? There's one school of thought that says every day, and there's one school of thought that says every other day. But I think in any case, because a sperm, good quality sperm, is going to last for 4 to 5 days, and an egg potentially only 12 to 24 hours, it makes sense to have sperm in situ for when you ovulate, because it's very easy to actually miss that window of opportunity, particularly if it's only 12 hours and depending on the time of day that you ovulate. So it makes sense to have sperm in situ. And I think it's a very individual thing. If having intercourse at that time is very stressful, and for a lot of couples we work with, it is very stressful because there's a real intention behind the act, then I think every other day is absolutely fine. But I think it's an individual thing. Younger people, every day might be fine. As we get older, maybe every other day is absolutely appropriate. I think there is, and it's proxied? Proxied. I think it's proxied, isn't it? But I think as well, if you're making sure that you are hydrated and you're getting lots of omega-3, that's probably a good way to make sure that area isn't getting too dry. I don't think people it doesn't tend to be that dry, but they won't have the same quantities. I think some women expect this massive sort of flood and flow at their peak time, and they're not necessarily going to get that. Really all it is, it's about it being wetter. So all you might notice is actually when you just wipe when you go to the toilet and it feels wetter, you might see it in your pants. It's just a bit of extra wetness and slipperiness that you don't have the rest of the time in your cycle. So we're not looking for this deluge of fluid. That's not going to happen. But also to point out, I've just thought that if you're taking Clomid, so if you're in a cycle of Clomid, so we seem to be moving to 6 cycles now rather than 3. If you are on Clomid, it's likely to dry up your fluid, so you will not get the same changes, or you might not have the same awareness of changes.